The Chicago Bulls, the team that I support, I'm a fan of, has decided to finally hit the Control Alt Delete button. Basically, decide to fire their president of basketball operations and their GM, both with the president, Michael Reinsdorf, announcing that the Bulls are heading into a new direction. They fired the president, Arturas Carcinovas, and general manager, Mark Eversley, after a few seasons that they have been the very definition of mid to just outright unplayable, and they decided to pull the plug this year and basically traded every single great player that they have for second round draft picks, which, yay, second round draft picks, woo, they mean absolutely nothing to me. If you can't tell, guys, I am in purgatory when it comes to basketball fandom in the NBA.
I'm surprised you
It's
even
bad.
have some pride. I'm surprised you even have pride wearing that jersey right now.
It's an Io Dosumu jersey. Shout out Io.
Yeah, RIP Io. He lasted what, like 2 years there, and then they traded him.
No, he was there since I think it was like 21 is when he got drafted. So he's been there for like 5 years.
Like 4 or 5.
Yeah. But like again, like it's the biggest. I'm not gonna go on a rant here, so just let me cook a little bit.
Yeah,
The
no
biggest the biggest problem I have with this organization is the fact that they were so adamant that the whole Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Kobe White, Valanciunas, like that starting five was going to be the best thing in the NBA, and they never adapted. Like it was great during I think it was like the 2020-21 season where it's like they were leading the NBA in wins at one point, and then the whole team got hurt, and the whole team got COVID, and everything fell apart, and then Lonzo Ball's need to decide to explode and just not, become a little noodle. And the problem was the organization never adapted. They spent the 4th overall pick on Patrick Williams. He's getting paid $90 million, and he's not even a good starter. He's one of the worst role players statistically in the NBA. He's getting paid $90 million. He is he is like, geez, I'm trying to think of a good way to describe it. He is like the Albert Hainsworth of the NBA. Like, he's getting paid a crap ton of money to do absolutely nothing on a day in and day out basis. And then you traded your best player in Io this year for a second round pick in Robert Dillingham, which, cool. Rob Dillingham should have been the starter for Minnesota when he took over Mike Conley, and the Bulls traded for Mike Conley, and then they gave him away for nothing. like this team had no direction. Like, they gave up every good player for second round picks, which, cool. Our truth's like, well, I drafted Nikola Jokic in the second round. Well, did you or did the GM do that? Because I don't really care at this point. Second round draft picks, like, good, like, cool, like Draymond Green, Nikola Jokic. There's some other good second round draft picks. Like, Iowa's a good second round draft pick that you got. It's like you can find some good diamond in the rough players in the second round, but to trade every single good player, Kobe White for a second round, Io for a second round, you basically had to trade Zach LaVine as a salary dump for next to nothing. You basically let DeMar DeRozan go for next to nothing. Kobe White was a second round pick. Nikola Vucevic was traded to the Celtics for next to nothing. Like, what are we doing? Like, in the fact that that Reinsdorf came out and said, we're going in a new direction. Billy Donovan is going to be the head coach, and whoever's the next GM has to work with Billy Donovan. I'm like, why? Just mutually part ways with Billy Donovan at the end of the season and go get a new coach, go get a new GM, go get a new president, go in a whole new direction together as one and figure this out. I have yet to see the Bulls be a competent ran organization since Derrick Rose and Jimmy Butler were teammates and Tom Thibodeau was the head coach. Like, what are we doing? Like, my favorite player in the NBA is Io DeSumo, and he's balling out. He's scoring almost 20 points per game in Minnesota since the trade went through when he went to Minnesota, and he's been balling out like an all-star level caliber guard. And I'm just sitting here going, Rob Dillingham hit a three. Meanwhile, I'm in
That's
hell.
So
that's
to me,
yeah.
it sounds like you're you're pretty happy with this clean house. It was very well deserved.
Yes, it should have happened last year. They should have fired them last year.
It was only a
Yeah,
matter of time, and now here we
I
are.
do feel bad. Well, and because I was reading something like Billy Donovan was like, questioning potentially his future there. I kind of feel for him, he's kind of stuck in that middle, where he's no longer got a president or a GM in front of him, ahead of him or above him rather. So he's kind of in like a weird spot. And I feel for you, Peter, as a Bulls fan. Like, I love Nikola Vucevic. He's actually one of my favorite, like, kinda like one of my favorite centers in the NBA, which is really just like a random guy. I've always really liked him. Maybe because of, like, 2K20 or something. I don't know. I've always liked, but you got Josh Giddey at the starting point guard. He's not bad. He's not, like, horrible,
Oh my god, I forgot about
Um,
Josh Giddey. We
you
gave him a
do,
contract
like
extension for nothing.
Yeah, you do like the Bulls should probably never have a night where there are any girls under the age of 18 in the arena, but you
Allegedly,
know,
allegedly,
allegedly.
allegedly,
But
Allegedly.
allegedly.
he's usable, he can at least do something for you guys,
He is
And
one of at the beginning of the season. He was one of the best offensive efficiency guards. But if you look at defensive efficiency, he was like near the bottom in terms of starting caliber guards in the NBA. And I'm like, oh my god, like this, like it makes no sense. We traded Alex Caruso for him for
Yeah. If it makes you feel any better, I do have a friend who's like super high on Rob Dillingham and thinks he will like become the guy. So if you're patient, there's a chance. Because my buddy
if
said
if
so.
he couldn't get the starting role over 36 or like 37-year-old Mike Conley, who shout out
Obviously a
Mike
legend, by the way.
Conley, great ball player Mike Conley. He was a Bull for like 5 minutes, and then we cut him for nothing, and they went back to the Timberwolves. So great job, Marcus Everly and our train. Great job. Um, but
What's
it's
not
just,
very good. I mean, I don't know. I guess where do you go from here? What do you do now?
I mean, I just don't know. Like as a Bulls fan, it's like it makes sense for the Bulls to mutually part ways with Bill Donovan because it's not his fault the roster is this bad. Like at one point, the Bulls didn't have a player that was above 6'9" on the roster. Like they have to visually think of how we're going to move forward and get better as a team and as an organization. And Michael Reinsdorf says, like we're gonna have Billy Donovan as head coach. Why? Like they need a whole new fresh start, whole new coaching staff. This core of players like Colin Sexton, Robert Dillingham, Josh Giddey, it's like they have like a bazillion guards that like no wing and no forward depth. It's like what are we doing? Like they need to go in direction that really it starts with this draft. Like they have to go into this draft with a game plan and an idea of what are they going to do. Because if they don't have that and they draft another Patrick Williams, I'm pretty sure Chicago's going to burn down the United Center at this rate.
There is one positive I would say overall for the Bulls right now. Is that you guys do hold 2 first round picks. Now,
One of them
where
is lottery protected by the Portland Trail Blazers,
yes,
which they're
and
in the lottery.
yep. So, there
Wait, are
is
they?
some sorry.
Oh, no, the Blazers are in the play-in, so I don't know if that's lottery protected or not. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. It says protected 1 through 14. I'm not super familiar with the NBA draft system on
I
kind of
I think if the Blazers win versus the Suns, they get the 7th seed, and the Bulls will have their pick. So I
gotcha.
need to root for the Blazers to win.
Yeah. But so you have the potential for 2 first round picks, which could be like that could be very beneficial, especially for what looks like it should be a pretty decent draft class, coming out of this year from college, you know? So there is a potential for some positive there, you know. So it's not all bad. It's just mostly bad, you know.
If the Bulls draft Daryl Patterson, he like subs out halfway through the game because like he's like, I'm tired of playing basketball. I want to be done for the day. I might literally lose my mind.
Yeah, and that's valid. But
Well, hopefully, I mean, they turn something around because the Chicago Bulls, they are just one of 10 teams this year who had 50 or more losses on the NBA season. That's a third of the league that have had 50 or more losses. And this kind of goes into the whole discussion they've had since probably the start of the season. And even beyond that is the whole idea of tanking. Like, what do you guys say right now to not just the Bulls, but all these other teams who maybe supposedly, allegedly are intentionally tanking? Like, what do we need to do here? What does the NBA need to do to fix this problem?
you know, this is such a complicated problem in my opinion. Like there isn't really a right or wrong answer, right? Because the whole idea of the lottery system is to help avoid tanking because then, you're not guaranteed the first round pick anyways. Like so that's the whole so that's what like that was supposed to be like the hey, don't tank cuz it doesn't necessarily matter. Um but I don't and I don't wanna say, I don't know that necessarily every single team, all 10 teams that finished with 50 losses were tanking, right? Like, I don't think it's fair to say the Pacers were tanking because they still have Tyrese Halliburton. Like,
Sure.
he's
Yeah.
still alive, he's just hurt, you know? Like, he will be back. They still have a good young core that just went to the NBA finals, right? Like they still have that. So I don't think they're tanking, right? I think it was just an unforeseen set of circumstances and they didn't play well and it just didn't work, right? Um but that's just one example I should add. Like I'm not necessarily saying that they aren't tanking, but like that I would lean that they aren't. Or like the Mavericks. They just got Cooper Flag, right? They just got an absolute stud in Cooper Flag too. Shout out him going for like 30, 30 and 40 or whatever it was just recently. One of the first and only players, I think, to do that, if I recall, Levi. Do you remember that stat? They showed it during the broadcast against the Lakers.
Yeah,
But
he's the first player to do 30, 30, 40 in like consecutive games.
yeah, so been
Mhm.
absolutely dogging. They lost 56 games. Do I think it's because they're tanking? No, I think their roster just isn't quite there. I think they were trying to win. I just don't, it just wasn't enough. Especially in a stacked West like that too, to keep in mind. But
Yeah, but I also I think to counterpoint that, like, you take a look at the Utah Jazz and the way that they have ran their organization, their games. Like they bought in at the deadline. They got Jaren Jackson. They got good players on their roster, and then multiple times this year, it's like they intentionally sat them in the fourth quarter so they can lose those games and they get a better position in the draft to get AJ DeBansa or Keaton Wagler or Cameron Boozer in this upcoming draft. It's like we get that. Like we get the fact that hey, like we're not there yet as a team. Like we still need building blocks, but it's like to intentionally just straight up like drop games and to literally lose games on purpose to like get a better draft position. Like it violates the integrity of the game. And like again, like Adam Silver has, talked about multiple times like where or not he's going to get rid of the draft lottery or is going to adjust the odds to uh basically, deter teams away from tanking. Or he's like strips like, I heard like one system that he talked about was like teams cannot be in the lottery in like 3 consecutive seasons, and if they do, they have to forfeit their draft pick. It's like he's trying to do ways to, like force these ownerships and force these teams to be like, you are not going to be bad because literally here's a problem. If you're a fan of these, like a third of the NBA teams are garbage. They're bad. Think about that as a fan. Like you're spending like what, probably like 200, maybe like $250 tickets to go to see like I don't know, like a Cleveland, like or like a Lakers or Warriors or Chicago Bulls or whatever team you're a fan of, and that's not including parking. That's not including concessions. That's not including merchandise. and already all those are uberly expensive as it is.
True.
And and basically like they're keeping those marquee game prices up the whole year. And Charles Barkley had a good point. It's like, how you deter these teams away from uh not tanking? Make them feel in their wallet. If the team is like has like a sub 500 record, they can't have tickets go over like $150. Like that's not good for the product, and that's not good for the fan base as a whole to support a team that's not trying.
Yeah. And, presenting this in like, well, we could present this in like a whole nother episode. This subject probably could we could go on about, but I think more out of any team in the NBA that seems like there must be some type of tanking going on would probably be the Milwaukee Bucks. There's been a lot of controversy going on with them lately in the news and stuff. That can deem its own episode, but I do think that they could be one of the prime examples of true tanking right now in the NBA league.
Yeah, and I think the hard thing too about cracking down on tanking is like kind of like I mentioned, there really isn't necessarily a right answer, right? Like, yeah, you could force them to, lose ticket prices or whatever, okay? But does that really matter if they get the number one pick? Like, then they're just gonna essentially almost the fans are gonna be like, oh, number one pick, we're gonna get the best player in the draft. And if you look in the past 2, 3 drafts, I mean, we're gonna get Victor Wembanyama, Cooper Flag, that is dang near enough to bring in the fan base in general, right? Like it
Right.
might, and even then, same idea, right? Okay, so it's a $200 game. You only sell 35, 40% of the tickets, right? Well, now it's $100 game. You sell 80% of the tickets. You technically still earn the same amount, like that they were already earning. So you're really not even losing theoretically, of course. Obviously, you're losing on potential earnings if you had the same price tickets, but it's there. I don't feel like there's necessarily an objectively correct answer, and I think that's the really difficult part. I like you can't because, and I think it boils down to what basketball is, right? Five players can one player out of five can make a significant impact versus if you look like in the NFL where you see a team tanking and they're tanking, but just because they got the first overall pick really doesn't mean anything because that one player has 21 other players that have to help that team produce, right? And that's of course being offense and defense. Let's say like Travis Hunter, top pick, right? Just because, but he's only one of 21 other players that have to help that team produce. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
whereas you look at the Bucks, you look at, the Pacers, they have Tyrese Halliburton, they have Benedict Mathurin, who I'm a big fan of. I don't know, that's just random, but like I love like that's a good core. Now let's say they would have drafted Victor Wembanyama, right? That one player with Tyrese Halliburton, they near would be enough to help propel them into a playoff spot. Like, that's the difficult part, is it's how different of a game basketball truly is, where one player can make a difference. Now we don't see it often, but one player really can make a difference in that type of setting.
And I think that's like the problem too. Is like a lot of people are just like, well, do what the NBA does and just go by record. It's like, well, the problem is like, for the NBA, like in Aiden's points, like they like one player can make a massive difference on a roster compared to one guy out of 11. Like, like again, like a Victor Wembanyama can like literally like do like the role of like 3 players, 4 players on his team, and he's just one guy. So it really just boils down to like, how do we deter tanking? And again, like I don't think there is a right solution, but there's got to be some type of solution because like it's getting bad at this point.
That it is, yeah. So it'll be fun. We'll continue to follow everything that goes on with the playoffs for the NBA, and then as we continue on and going into the off season,